That should do it. Give me a sec. I'm getting over there. Can you hear the background? Who cares? There's supposed to be Russian background music. I don't hear it. Yeah, maybe a little. Hold on. Let me make sure I don't blind you. I don't know why work lights feel the need to flash. It seems entirely unnecessary. Clean this up, old man. Ignore that. So, Smug Alana. Not crazy about the design here, but the general idea. Originally, I wanted to do like a crystalline structure with the fire in it. I was having a hard time doing that in a way that I cared for. So with just kind of a generic snowflake shape. Fire turned out pretty well, in my opinion. Let me A Smug Alana, I mostly know her from her React content here on YouTube. Not sure what she does on her Twitch outside of that. She's real funny and I think she's pretty cool. I think I've started to realize that there are like not corpos or corporations, but like almost, where the algorithm, if you watch one person, will just recommend you the same group of people. I started watching Pipkin Pippa, and then I got recommended a few channels, one of which was Kirsha. I started watching a lot of Kirsha, and that's when I started getting like Fallen Shadow, Alana, Mama Oko, so on and so forth. And that line's a little off. Well, I had a lot of trouble with designs this week. I was originally going to do Bow, because the design I have in mind for her is a lot simpler. But I couldn't get it to look right. And then I just thought about doing my Henya one. Well, I could get the drawing right. I couldn't get the carve right. I got a practice piece, trying out some different techniques so we don't end up scrapping too many of these. I don't mind scrapping them, but I like to complete them as much as I can. Well, like I said, this one I'm not crazy about the design. And I might come back when I have a little more experience and a little more skill. Go for the design I originally had in mind. The quote isn't bad. I mean, it doesn't really showcase her personality. But very opinionated woman, it seems, at least from what I see. And she, that's where I was a little worried about saying when you're right. Worried people might take that as an explicit political implication, which it's not. Just correct was kind of too much of a mouthful for me. I know she doesn't. She's not. Is she political? I guess so. I mean, she's not afraid to bring up politically charged topics, from what I've seen. I certainly hope people don't ascribe my shitty little writing as evidence of her personal political belief. Oh, I should also mention, Lowe's had poplar again, so I went back to that. And it is a much nicer wood for working. The color of this one's a little off. Actually, it looks pretty good on, well, looks like decent on camera when you don't wash it out. But I'll probably end up staining it. I got a couple stains when I picked this up that I haven't used before. I've used a couple. I wanted to try something different. When I get the espresso and the gun stock, didn't really care for either of those. At least not on the poplar. I did consider using the gun stock for the flame here. It is much more orange than I typically ascribe gun stock to, but also they had a barn red wood stain. Thought I might give that a try. I don't know. Money's tight, so we'll see. Might just sit unfinished in my closet. Looks kind of like a snowflake, right? I did think about doing a better snowflake design. But then you get into issues of how do you make that look good in a wood carve? I kept this one fairly simple. I tried to keep it mostly uniform. There is definitely some variance with our little, what would you call these, branches? Arms? I don't know. Thinking about doing some wiki diving later this week, and maybe I'll add that to the list of things I want to look up. Anatomy of a snowflake. Speaking of things I might do later on stream. That's going to be a weird transition, Don. YouTube's been showing me a lot of baby videos, which I don't mind. I think baby videos are cute, adorable little tykes. But then I was reminded of a fact that I learned a long time ago, that babies, infants, don't have object permanence. As soon as it leaves their sight, it stops existing. Well, that's fairly interesting on its own. I thought that might make a... Just thinking about that is horrifying to me. You live in an existence where like everything around you just pops in and out of reality. Constantly. Excuse me. How horrifying is that? Just, like your mom leaves to go to the bathroom and oh, yep, she doesn't exist anymore. And then another woman just pops into existence a couple minutes later. Like that seems like a great premise for a horror story. How would you? Oh, okay. But I think in order to do that as a proper horror story, I'm gonna make these a little shorter. As a proper horror story, you probably have to do it with like other people. The person experiencing the lack of object permanence would have to make references to people and then be told like, who the fuck is that? Although I imagine you'd have to build it. You can't just like start off with that. Well, maybe you can if it's a short story. I'm really bad at talking. Which, yeah, great idea, Don. Start a career where you have to talk constantly. I wrote down some stuff that I was thinking about at work. Maybe I can chat about those on stream. Oop. I saw a clip of Wendigoon answering the art versus artist question, which is a subject I quite like to talk about. So maybe I can talk about that on stream, right? I'm a big believer in separating art from artist. Now I understand and do see the point of people who don't. I might have spaced these a little too close together. But generally, the thing I see get brought up, and why you shouldn't, is that by purchasing works of, we'll say, disagreeable people, because there's a spectrum of why you would condemn a work for its artist. But the biggest reason I see brought up is that you know, by buying their stuff, you're supporting them, and they can then, in turn, support things you don't like. That's a fair point. But as far as the money thing goes, let me make sure I'm not doubling up on words again. It still bothers me about the Wendigoon one. But the thing about politically shopping with money as your motivator, right? You don't want to give money to this person that they can turn around and do things that you believe are harming others. But the thing is, your purchase goes to so many other people who maybe have the same view and maybe don't. I'll use J.K. Rowling as an example. She's a TERF. Not a big fan of the... Well, she's critical of the trans community. I'm not going to make a comment on that just right now. Probably, I don't know. Maybe I will. But because of that, a lot of people don't buy her books. But that lack of unless you're purchasing something else from the same publisher, the publishing house might be very trans friendly. You're denying them part of the money. Somebody had to drive the book to wherever you picked it up. You don't know their political affiliation. And like, yeah, the amount of money you spent, like if you were to buy Harry Potter, the amount of money you spend on that book that you could trace directly into J.K. Rowling's pocket is minuscule. But she gets a lot of money. Well, other authors. She's a little bit of a special case in this regard, but other authors get huge bonuses because of their sales. They get them up front. It's not as if you have no standing to criticize JK and not want to buy her books. But for me, there's a bigger reason why you should separate art and artist. And that's yourself. You know? There are very few things in this life, I've found, to be movingly beautiful, let's say. And that might sound like a hyperbolic thing to say about fucking Harry Potter. But for some people it is. Some people generally were in a bad place. Reading about the boy who lived helped get them out of it. I think it's not good to deny yourself that stuff just because you don't like the person who wrote it. Orson Scott Card is another one. Not a nice guy, as it turns out. Very negative on the homosexual community. But so what? The story of Ender and his journey could be moving for you, even if you are gay or a lesbian or bi or whatever. I think it's... Don't mean to trivialize struggles people go through, but in my experience, it's not. I don't think it's worth it to deny yourself those moments to make a point to someone who's never going to hear it. I believe that in both the argumentative sense and the literal sense. Doesn't matter how much you preach to Orson Scott Card. Yeah, I haven't looked in on him. Maybe he's changed his mind. I doubt it, but maybe. But, like, you can preach to him all you want. He's not going to hear it. And the act of not buying a book, well, hey, you know, boycotts can be powerful. He doesn't know you didn't buy the book. It's not... You're not teaching him a lesson, really. You can if you do it in a large enough group, but you're asking a lot. I just think, you know, don't cut your nose to spite your face, right? Now this apostrophe out. Is that visible? Kinda. The other subject I wanted to talk about, sort of related to this, something I don't hear talked about nearly as often, and that's artist versus audience. Hold on, let me check on the audio real quick. Artist versus audience. What do you do as an author when the people who find your book and love your book are people you find disagreeable? And that, I think, is more interesting. I'm not real sure how I feel about it. You know, a lot of people will say once a work is out of the artist's hands, its meaning becomes whatever people ascribe to it. There's truth in that. But then what? Do you reevaluate Do you reevaluate yourself? You know, do you say, hey, sort of like do a very easy one. If you are a very left-leaning author and you make a book that is beloved by the right, you look at that and reflect on yourself and go, hey, maybe my politics are more complicated than I thought. You know, why is something natural for me so beloved by people I dislike? Or do you use that to degrade those people? A common tactic in modern politics that I'm not a fan of. But I won't deny that it's effective. You know, you have one political leaning and an audience of the opposite political leaning loves it. You can use it to kind of, oh, look how dumb they are. You don't understand that this story is in opposition of them. Or do you alter the work? Try and make it less appealing. Hell, do you use it as a foot in the door, so it were, to convert people? You know, if you have this political leaning and that political party is a fan of your work, do you use that to go like, hey, look guys, you really liked what the person you disagreed with said. So maybe you should listen to me more. Realize that maybe there's more to what I'm saying than what you've been told. Or what my party is saying than what you've been told. Or do you scrub it? Which is what something I learned about recently. Stephen King did that. Though it was not something as simple as a political disagreement, unfortunately. He wrote a book, and I've never read it because it's been pulled from shelves and is not to be reproduced ever again, according to Mr. King's wishes. Is he still alive? I think so. But the book is called Rage. And like I said, never read it, but I've read some summaries. In the story, a young man goes to high school with a gun. He holds his class hostage for a while, makes some grandiose speeches before he starts executing people. And unfortunately, in real life, there was a young man who got a gun, went to school, and held his class hostage before he started executing people. And a lot of things he was saying, according to survivors, were direct quotes from the book. And a copy of it was found among his possessions afterwards. So, Stephen King, feeling at least somewhat responsible, had the book pulled. Now, I'm a big 2A guy, so obviously I don't think, yeah, doesn't really track, does it? I don't think Stephen King has any more responsibility in that particular instance than anybody else. And I think he said in interviews, because people have asked him about it, I think he said, like, yeah, it probably wasn't the difference, but if it was, I don't want it to ever happen again. That's fair enough. That's his work. He is allowed to do with it as he pleases. I was actually discussing this with a guy at work. He's like, oh, Stephen was trying to save people's lives. My counterpoint was, people have been wanting to kill each other since the dawn of time. One thing that has never been in short supply was excuses. Who knows, maybe I'm wrong about that particular kid. Maybe if he hadn't found that book at the time he found it, he wouldn't have done that terrible thing. Or maybe he would have just found something more obscure. There was that one killer who, quoting Catcher in the Rye, the guy who, was it LBJ? Who got shot? Somebody important got shot because the shooter was trying to impress Jodie Foster. Back when she was young, too. I'm going to ignore this little arm. It goes back to the point I was saying earlier of, yeah, maybe this kid read that book. That's why he did the terrible thing. But maybe somebody else would have read it and realized how close they were and would have had a moment of clarity to get some help. I don't know. I just think it's sad that we're in a place where that's a thing to discuss. I think there's a lot more to it than the availability of firearms. That L almost looks like an F, doesn't it? Alright, maybe we're getting it. I felt kind of okay talking about this, doing Alana's. She's not afraid of getting into, like I said, politically charged topics, which this very much is. Ooh. I certainly don't feel so great. Getting a little lightheaded. That L's kind of rough, huh? Doesn't look on camera. I think I'll do the same thing I did with Rosie's carving, and I'll come back in and burn all these lines in to help them pop. It's one thing I don't like about poplar is that oak had a beautiful color. Poplar, not so much. Did I do the tail? I did do the tail. Yeah, starting to feel a little lightheaded. I'll flip that around and see if it makes it a little better. Oh, I guess I never explained the symbol, did I? Kind of jumped into my tirade. My old man disease kicking in, don't worry about it. Yeah, she's a fox woman. She has an ice and a fire model. Again, pretty shallow as far as... I'm sorry. This is a little shallow. But I think it works okay. Hold on, let me open a window, get some air moving in here. It's been chilly these last couple days, so I shut everything down. It's funny because I'm originally from Michigan. And if old me could hear me, well, if younger me could hear old me saying what I just been through is chilly and laugh in my face, you'd be surprised how quickly you acclimate to a new. Man, this is all over the place, isn't it? Probably because I'm getting lightheaded. God, I hope it's not because I've been talking so much. Oh, I gotta do my tags too. That's okay. Got a little nasty right in there, but we're still well in passable territory. I'm worried about this flame though. I didn't give myself a whole lot of room to work. Because I'm planning to, like the outer flame part, I'm going to take out as much of that as I can. Well, like I said, I made that kind of small. And as generic as it looks, I am kind of happy with how it turned out. Never was much of an artist. Never was much of an artist. I can draw little simple things, but a lot of geometric shapes, honestly. I never could do flames. And that turned out like pretty cool. Not that guy, that guy. I'm just gonna trace my line here with the chisel. It's not super easy. Doing a curved line with a straight line. But we can fudge with it a little bit later on. What if I do this? Eh, a little rough, but well. Ah, damn it! I shouldn't have cut it all the way across. That's fine. Ooh. Might do some like wood fill. I got wood fill? I think I do. Fill that in. Maybe not. I don't know. Trying real hard not to cut into this inner flame here. Why I should have. Probably shouldn't have traced it with the V gouge. But too late now. Oh, that kind of looks cool just as is, with it deeper at the bottom and then coming up to the top. Oh, the strays are back. I gotta put their food dish back out. Do that after stream. Ah, bastard. Yeah, that might have been too little too late there, Don. It's all right. Most of this came out all right, so I won't scrap this one. Doing a ton of work down there. I need to get some work done up here. Try the, he says it immediately goes back to down here. These X-Acto knife sets are really nice, actually. They're cheap as all hell. I think I mentioned it before, but like the set I bought these chisels in was $70, which is like super low end. You can get, I got this from the grocery store for $12, I want to say. And you can do quite a lot with them. I'm looking up wood carving videos to learn a little bit more. So one guy who did some really impressive work with just one of these, not this particular blade, but the replacement blades are dirt cheap. You'd have to go through quite a few before you equaled the price of this set of chisels and the sharpening stones. But the useful skills to have, the sharpening stones, I mean. I do think they feel better. And also you get the one the one thing X-Acto doesn't sell, I should say. At least not that I could find, is a U. Like that guy there. Which I don't know if that's a limitation or there's just no real call for him. Alright, I think that's pretty good for one day. Yeah, got pretty much all of it done. I know it's a little more simple, but after we scrapped that last one, I think it's good to step back and do something you're a little more confident you can do. clean up some of these connections. Well, shoot, I was thinking this was going to take me 2 days. I'll have to figure out something else for this week. I don't know what. There's definitely not enough. I can stream the burn, but there ain't enough of that. You know, that's a half hour tops. Yeah, not bad. Not bad overall. Well, I'm looking at it on camera and how much lighter the outer flame is than the wood around it. Actually does pop really nice. I think I'll go ahead and call it there. All right. It's lovely to see you. Thanks for stopping by. I'm tired. Get out of here.